מיום ליום ישועתו. שירו לאדוני, שיר חדש, שירו לאדוני, כל הארץ, שירו לאדוני, ברכו שמו, בסכו מיום ליום ישועתו. שירו לאדוני, שירו לאדוני, שיר חדש, שירו לאדוני, כל הארץ, שירו לאדוני, ברכו שמו, בסכו מיום ליום ישועתו. שירו לאדוני, שיר חדש, שירו לאדוני, כל הארץ, שירו לאדוני, ברכו שמו, בסכו מיום ליום ישועתו. ספרו בגויים כבודו, לכל העמים נפלאותיו, כי גדול אדוני ומהולל מאוד, נורא הוא על כל אלוהים. שירו לאדוני, שיר חדש, שירו לאדוני, כל הארץ, שירו לאדוני, ברכו שמו, בסכו מיום ליום ישועתו. ספרו בגויים כבודו, לכל העמים נפלאותיו, כי גדול אדוני ומהולל מאוד, נורא הוא על כל אלוהים. שירו לאדוני, שיר חדש, שירו לאדוני, כל הארץ, שירו לאדוני, ברכו שמו, בסכו מיום ליום ישועתו. ספרו בגויים כבודו, לכל העמים נפלאותיו, כי גדול אדוני ומהולל מאוד, נורא הוא על כל אלוהים. שירו לאדוני, שירו לאדוני, שירו לאדוני. ספרו בגויים כבודו, לכל העמים נפלאותיו, כי גדול אדוני ומהולל מאוד, נורא הוא על כל אלוהים. שירו לאדוני, שיר חדש, שירו לאדוני, כל הארץ, שירו לאדוני, ברכו שמו, בסכו מיום ליום ישועתו. שירו לאדוני, שיר חדש, שירו לאדוני, כל הארץ, שירו לאדוני, ברכו שמו, בסכו מיום ליום ישועתו. שירו לאדוני, שיר שירו לאדוני ברכו שמו, בסחו מיום ליום ישועתו. ספרו בגויים כבודו, לכל העמים נפלאותיו, כי גדול אדוני ומהולל מאוד, נורא הוא על כל אלוהים. שירו לאדוני שיר חדש, שירו לאדוני כל הארץ, שירו לאדוני ברכו שמו, בסחו מיום ליום ישועתו. ספרו בגויים כבודו, לכל העמים נפלאותיו, כי גדול אדוני ומהולל מאוד, נורא הוא על כל אלוהים. שירו לאדוני שיר חדש, שירו לאדוני כל הארץ, שירו לאדוני ברכו שמו, בסחו מיום ליום ישועתו. ספרו בגויים כבודו, לכל העמים נפלאותיו, כי גדול אדוני ומהולל מאוד, נורא הוא על כל אלוהים. שיר לאדוני, שיר לאדוני, שיר לאדוני. ספרו בגויים כבודו, לכל העמים נפלאותיו, כי גדול אדוני ומהולל מאוד, נורא הוא על כל אלוהים. שירו לאדוני שיר חדש, שירו לאדוני כל הארץ, שירו לאדוני ברכו שמו, בסחו מיום ליום ישועתו. שירו לאדוני שיר חדש, שירו לאדוני כל הארץ, שירו לאדוני ברכו שמו, בסחו מיום ליום ישועתו. שירו לאדוני שיר חדש, שירו לאדוני כל הארץ, שירו לאדוני ברכו שמו, בסחו מיום ליום ישועתו. ספרו בגויים כבודו,
Shabbat Shalom.
Shabbat Shalom.
This week's parasha, Lech Lecha, is all about the journey and the paths we take to arrive where it is we need to be. We learn in the Mishnah that Rabbi Yochanan ben Zakkai asked his disciples, what is the right path? Rabbi Eliezer said, a good eye. Rabbi Yehoshua said, a good friend. Rabbi Yosei said, a good neighbor. Rabbi Simeon said, foresight. Rabbi Elazar said, a good heart. He said to them, I prefer the words of Elazar, for his words include all of yours. And so we know too how important it is to open our hearts to friends and strangers alike, to be thoughtful and generous and supportive towards others, creating sacred community wherever we are. And so tonight, wherever you have come, whether you are here with us in the sanctuary or joining us on live stream, we are glad you are here. Whatever the path is you have taken, join us in song and celebration as we let go of the week that has passed, settling in to the goodness and the peace, the rejuvenation that Shabbat can bring. We turn to page 3. I welcome up Beth Kio to lead us in our opening prayer as we welcome Shabbat with light.
As these Shabbat candles give light to all who behold them, so may we, by our lives, give light to all who behold us. As their brightness reminds us of the generations of Israel who have kindled light, so may we, in our own day, be among those who kindle light.
Baruch atah Adonai, Eloheinu melech haolam, asher kideshanu b'mitzvotav, v'tzivanu lehadlik ner shel Shabbat.
Blessed are you, Adonai, our God, sovereign of the universe, who hallows us with the mitzvot, commanding us to kindle the light of Shabbat.
We turn now to page 5 as we share in Kiddush.
Baruch atah Adonai Eloheinu melech haolam, borei peri hagafen. Baruch atah Adonai Eloheinu melech haolam, asher kitshanu b'mitzvotav v'ratzavanu, v'shabbat kodsho v'ahava uvratzon hinchilanu, zikaron lema'aseh bereshit, ki hu yom techila lemikra kodesh, zecher letziat Mitzrayim, ki vanu v'acharta ve'otanu kidashta mikol hamim, ve'shabbat kodshecha be'ahava uvratzon inchaltanu. Baruch atah Adonai mekadesh haShabbat.
L'chaim. We turn now to page 12 as we welcome Shabbat with song, singing from the Psalms of Kabbalat Shabbat, L'chu Neranana from Psalm 95, that opening paragraph on the page.
ונרננה לאדוני, נריע לצו אישנו. לכו נרננה לאדוני, נריע לצו אישנו. נקדמה פנה בתודה, בזמירות נריע לו. נקדמה פנה בתודה, בזמירות נריע לו. לכו נרננה לאדוני, נריע לצו אישנו. לכו נרננה לאדוני, נריע לצו אישנו. נקדמה פנה בתודה, בזמירות נריע לו. נקדמה פנה בתודה, בזמירות נריע לו. כי אל גדול אדוני, ומלך גדול על כל אלוהים. כי אל גדול אדוני, ומלך גדול על כל אלוהים. כי אל גדול אדוני, ומלך גדול על כל אלוהים. לכו נרננה לאדוני, נריע לצו אישנו. לכו נרננה לאדוני, נריע לצו אישנו. נקדמה פנה בתודה, בזמירות נריע לו. נקדמה פנה בתודה, בזמירות נריע לו.
We turn to page 22 as we join in Tov Lehodot, 3 lines down from Psalm 92.
מזמור שיר ליום השבת, טוב להודות לאדוני וזמר לשמך עליון. טוב להודות לאדוני וזמר לשמך עליון. טוב להודות לאדוני וזמר לשמך עליון. להגיד בבוקר חסדך ואמונתך, בלילות, בלילות. להגיד בבוקר חסדך ואמונתך, בלילות, בלילות. טוב להודות לאדוני וזמר לשמך עליון. טוב להודות לאדוני וזמר לשמך עליון. עלה עשו ועלנה ולעלה היגיון בהינו עלי אסור ועלנה ולעלה היגיון בהינו טוב להודות לאדוני וזמר לשמך עליון טוב להודות לאדוני וזמר לשמך עליון כי שימחתני אדוני בפעלך במעשה ידיך ארנן כי שימחתני אדוני בפעלך במעשה ידיך ארנן מה גדול מעשיך אדוני מאוד עמקו מחשבותיך מה גדול מעשיך אדוני מאוד עמקו מחשבותיך טוב להודות לאדוני וזמר לשמך עליון טוב להודות לאדוני וזמר לשמך עליון.
We're going to turn back to page 20. We're warmed up, praising God, ready to welcome that Sabbath bride, singing L'chadoti. As always, we sing verses 1 and 2, 5 and 9, and when we reach verse 9, Bawi v'shalom, we rise as a congregation, turning to face the entrance of our sanctuary and beckoning that Sabbath spirit to join us because we are welcoming it with our voices and spirit. And if you're with us on live stream, remember your space is sacred. Your sanctuary at home connects you to us wherever you are in the world. We welcome Shabbat, L'chadoti.
ושמו אחד לשמו תפארת ולתהילה לך דודי לי כתלה פני שבת נקבלה לך דודי לי כתלה פני שבת נקבלה לקראת שבת לכו ונלכה מקור אברהם מראש מקרב נשוכה סוף מעשה במחשבה תחילה לך דודי לי כתלה פני שבת נקבלה לך דודי לי כתלה פני שבת נקבלה התעוררי כי בעורר קומי אורי שיר דברי כבוד אדוני עלייך נגלה לך דודי לי כתלה פני שבת נקבלה לך דודי לי כתלה פני שבת נקבלה בואי ושלום עטרת בלגן בשמחה וצולתו אמונה, עם סגולה בואי חלה, בואי חלה, לך אדוני, מקטלה, פני שבת נקבלה, לך אדוני, מקטלה, פני שבת נקבלה.
Turn to those around you, near and far. Wish them a Shabbat Shalom. Let them know how glad you are they're here. We continue on page 26 with Chatzi Kaddish as we remain standing through the Shema.
יתגדל ויתקדש שמי רבה, ועמד יברך חירותי וימליך מלכותי, בחייכון וביומכון ובחייתכו בית ישראל. בגלה, בגלה, ובזמן קריב, ואמרו אמן, יהי שמי רבה מבורך, לעולם עלמי המיה יתברך, יתברך וישתבח, ויתפאר ויתרומם ויתנשא, ויתהדר, ויתהלל, יתהלל, שמי דקודשה בריחו, לעילה מן כל ברכתה ושירתה, תושבחתה ונחמתה, דמירן בעלמה, ואמרו אמן. Barechu et Adonai HaMevorach, Baruch Adonai HaMevorach, Leolam Vaed. Hididai, 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 hididai,
On page 30, we share in Mariv Aravim praising God for the gift of creation. Baruch Ata Adonai Eloheinu melech haolam, asher bidvaro ma'ariv aravim, b'chokhma poteach sha'arim, uvitvuna mishane itim, umachalif et hazmanim, umisader et hakochavim, b'mishmerotehem barakia kirtzono. Borei yom v'layla, golel or mipnei choshech, v'choshech mipnei or, uma'avir yom umevi layla, umabdil ben yom uvein layla, Adonai Tzevaot Shemo, El Chai V'Kayam, Tamid Yimloch Aleinu Le'olam Va'ed, Baruch Ata Adonai, HaMa'ariv Aravim. On the top of page 33, we read together. As you taught Torah to those whose names I bear, Teach me Torah too. Its mystery beckons, yet I struggle with its truth. You meant Torah for me. Did you mean the struggle for me too? Don't let me struggle alone. Help me to understand, to be wise, to listen, to know. Lead me into the mystery. Baruch Ata Adonai, Ohev Amo Yisrael.
Shema Yisrael, Adonai Eloheinu, Adonai Echad, Baruch Shem, Kevon Malchuto, Leolam Va'ed.
You may be seated. We continue chanting Via Hafta on page 36.
ואהבת את אדוני אלוהיך בכל לבבך ובכל נפשך ובכל מאודיך והיו הדברים האלה אשר אנוכי מצווך היום על לבביך ושיננתם לבניך ודיברת בם בשבתך בביתך ובלכתך בדרך ושוכבך ובקומך וקשרתם לאות על ידיך והיו לטוטפות בין עיניך וכתבתם על מזוזות ביתך ובשעריך למען תזכרו ועשיתם את כל מצוותי והייתם קדושים לאלוהיכם אני אדוני אלוהיכם אשר הוצאתי אתכם מארץ מצרים להיות לכם לאלוהים אני אדוני אלוהיכם.
On the bottom of page 39, we read responsively. In a world torn by violence and pain, a world far from wholeness and peace, give us the courage to say, Adonai, there is one God in heaven and earth.
High heavens declare your glory, may earth reveal your justice and love.
From bondage in Egypt we were delivered. At Sinai we bound ourselves to your way.
Inspired by prophets and instructed by sages, time and again we overcame oppressive forces.
Though our failings are many and our faults are great, it has been our glory to bear witness to our God, keeping alive in dark ages your vision of a world redeemed.
Let us continue to work for the day when the nations will be one and at peace. Then shall we rejoice as Israel did, singing on the shores of the sea.
Page 40.
Kamocha ba'elim Adonai, mi kamocha nedar ba'kodesh. Mi kamocha ba'elim Adonai, mi kamocha nedar ba'kodesh. Nora Adonai, mi kamocha nedar ba'kodesh, mi מי כמוך באלים אדוני, מי כמוך נדר בקודש. נורא עושה, נורא עושה אדוני, ימלוך לעולם ועד.
On the bottom of page 43, we read together. Give us a place to rest, Adonai our God. Bring us into shelter in the soft, long evening shadows of your truth. For with you are true protection and safety, and in your presence are acceptance and gentle love. Watch over us as we go forth. Prepare for us as we return. Spread over us your shelter of peace, over all we love, over our Jerusalem and yours. Baruch atah Adonai, hapurei sukat shalom aleinu, ve'al kol amo Yisrael, ve'al Yerushalayim. Page 44, we give thanks for the gift of rest that Shabbat brings. V'shamru.
ושמרו בני ישראל את השבת, לעשות את השבת לדורותם ברית עולם. ושמרו בני ישראל את השבת, לעשות את השבת לדורותם ברית עולם. ביני ובין בני ישראל עוד היא לעולם, עוד היא לעולם, עוד היא לעולם. ושמרו בני ישראל את השבת, לעשות את השבת לדורותם ברית עולם. כי ששת ימים עשה אדוני, עשה אדוני את השמיים ואת הארץ. ושמרו בני ישראל את השבת, לעשות את השבת לדורותם ברית עולם. וביום השביעי שבת ויהי נפש, שבת ויהי נפש, שבת ויהי נפש. ושמרו בני ישראל את השבת, לעשות את השבת לדורותם ברית עולם.
We rise together for the Amidah on page 46.
Adonai sefatai tiftach ufi yagid teilatecha. Adonai, open up my lips, that my mouth may declare your praise. Ata Adonai Eloheinu Velohei Avoteinu Imoteinu Elohei Avraham Elohei Yitzhak Velohei Yaakov Elohei Sarah Elohei Rivka Elohei Rachel Elohei Leah Ha'el Hagadol Hagibor Ve'hanora El Elyon Gomel Chasadim Tovim Ve'koneh Hakol Ve'zocher Chasdei Avot V'imahot U'mebit Geula Lifnei Bneihem Leman Shemo Ve'ahava Melech Ozer U'Moshia U'Magen Baruch Ata Adonai Magen Avraham Ve'ezrat Sarah Ata Gibor Le'olam Adonai Mechaye HaKol Ata Rav Lehoshia Mashiv HaRuach U'Morid HaGashem Mechakel Chaim Bechesed Mechaye HaKol Berachamim Rabim Somech Noflim Verofech Olim Umatir Asurim Umekayem Emunato Lishenei Afar Michamocha Ba'al Gevurot Umido Melach Melech Memit Umechaye Umatzmiach Yeshua V'ne'eman Ata Le'chayot HaKol Baruch Ata Adonai Mechaye HaKol Ata Kadosh V'Shimcha Kadosh U'Kdoshim B'chol Yom Yahalelucha Selah Baruch Ata Adonai Ha'el HaKadosh.
You may be seated. We continue at the bottom of page 55 as we join together responsively. Disturb us, Adonai, ruffle us from our complacency. Make us dissatisfied with the peace of ignorance, the quietude which arises from a shunning of the horror, the defeat, the bitterness, and the poverty, physical and spiritual, of humans. Shock us, Adonai, deny to us the false Shabbat, which gives us the delusions of satisfaction amid a world of war and hatred. Wake us, O God, and shake us from the sweet and sad poignancies rendered by half-forgotten melodies and rubric prayers of yesteryears. Make us know that the border of the sanctuary is not the border of living, and the walls of your temples are not shelters from the winds of truth, justice, and reality. Disturb us, O God, and vex us. Let not your Shabbat be a day of torpor and slumber. Let it be a time to be stirred and spurred to action. Baruch Atah Adonai Mekadesh HaShabbat. Ever-present one, may we, your people Israel, be worthy in our deeds and our prayer, wherever we live, wherever we seek you, in this land, in Zion restored, in all lands. You are our God, whom alone we serve in reverence. Baruch Atah Adonai She'otcha levadcha be'ira na'avod. On page 61, we join together in our prayer for peace. Grant us peace, your most precious gift, O eternal source of peace, and give us the will to proclaim its message to all the peoples of the earth. Bless our country as a safeguard of peace, its advocate among the nations. May contentment reign within our borders, health and happiness within our homes. Strengthen the bonds of friendship and fellowship among all the inhabitants of every land. Plant virtue in every soul, and may the love of your name hallow every home and every heart. Praised are you, Eternal One, who blesses our people with peace. Baruch Atah Adonai, hamivarech et amo Yisrael b'shalom. As we've prayed for peace in our world, we think of those who are in need of prayers, those who are in need of healing of mind, of body, and of spirit. We take a moment, think of them, and whisper their names out loud. We join together in the words of Mishaberach, which can be found on page 253.
Mekor strength, who bless the ones before us. Help us find the courage to make our lives a blessing, and let us say Amen. Nisheberach imotenu mekol habracha lavotenu. Bless those in need of healing with refuah shlema, the renewal of body, the renewal of spirit, and let us say Amen.
Amen. We take a moment now for our own silent prayers.
Elohai netzol shoni meira usfatai midaber mirma velim kal elai nafshi tido lenafshi kehafar kol tiyeh פתח ליבי בתורתך ובמצוותיך תרדוף נפשי וכל חבושים עלי רעה מהרפא עצתם לקלקל מה חשבת עשה למען שמך עשה למען ימינך עשה למען קדושתך עשה למען תורתך למען יחלצו ידידך הושיע ימינך יהיו לרצון אמרי פי והגיון ליבי לפניך אדוני צורי וגואלי אדוני צורי וגואלי עושה שלום הוא יעשה שלום עלינו ועל כל ישראל ועל כל יושבי תבל Vehi meru. Amen.
This Shabbat, or this year, we reintroduced Worship Works, where once a month we take a little bit of time to focus on an aspect of our prayer. And for October, especially because this week's Parsha is Lech Lecha, in which God tells Avram, I will make of you a great nation, and I will bless you, and you shall be a blessing, I thought it would be a good opportunity not to talk about blessing necessarily in a general sense, but to kind of drill down a little bit on that opening formula we use in so many of our blessings. Baruch atah Adonai Eloheinu melech haolam, right? Everyone, most people at least know that line of Hebrew, and there's a lot of conversation about how we're supposed to translate that, what it really means. So first, because it's Shabbos and we want to study a little Torah, always a nice thing, we're going to focus in on chapter 12, verse 2 from Parshat Lech Lecha, to think about what this idea that God says to Avram, you shall be a blessing, what does that really mean? So Amy Strickland, if you would read the Da'at Zikanim, that would be great.
Can I take this off? Okay. Read not, and you shall be a blessing. Rather, be a blessing. This is the commandment form. Thus, as part of Avram's covenantal promise, he was commanded, wherever you go, inspire others to bless. Then shall you be a blessing.
I personally love this commentary because it's not only that God is bestowing good things upon Avram, he's not yet Abraham, right? He's Avram, but he's saying what I'm giving you is the capacity to model what blessed behavior is and to inspire other people to also act in ways that are blessed, and that way you are a blessing not just by who you are, but how you help the world to be a better place, right? And then, of course, because we love Rashi, or I love Rashi, another really classic, wonderful commentary. Vanessa, will you read the Rashi for us?
And you shall be a blessing. The meaning is this: before your journey, the power to bless was in my hands alone, but now the power of blessing will also be yours.
Right? So Rashi says, Avram, I'm going to have this covenant with you, and because we know the rest of the story, eventually that covenant will apply to all of us, right? That when God gives Avram this blessing and says, you will be a blessing, it means that it's not only God's power, right? But that Avram, and I would say by extension, every single one of us has the capacity to not only be a blessing in our lives, but to share that blessing with other people. Beautiful. Okay, so we have a little bit of a backdrop of the power of blessing, and now we want to think about what does Baruch atah Adonai, blessed are you, or we'll talk about that, what that Baruch really means. Atah Adonai Eloheinu melech haolam, our God, King, ruler, sovereign, we'll get there too, of the universe, of everything. So first, just 3 mini commentaries for the breaking down this formula, the piticha, as we call it in, if you want to talk liturgy in a Hebrew kind of way. Beth Kio, will you read for us? Baruch atah Adonai, blessed are you, Adonai. What are we doing?
First, we acclaim God's name, the personal power in our lives, so inexplicably intimate that we speak the name which links us through Moses in dialogue and which empowers us to speak to the Holy One in person address, you.
So someone asked me this the other day, how can we be so bold that we decide that we're gonna bless God, right? Isn't God supposed to bless us? Yet, there's something built into this formula that is very intimate and personal, and it requires us to speak to God in the first person. Blessed are you, right? Sharon, will you read the Eloheinu, our God?
Then we recognize the power who has been with us in our wanderings, the God we share on our historic journey, the one who is ours. the one who makes all Israel one.
Great. So of course we have that idea of there being just one God, but that God belongs to us. Eloheinu, our God, a very personal relationship for the Jewish people, both individually, but also communally. Okay, Fran, Melech HaOlam, sovereign of our world.
Finally, we acknowledge the presence within every people, the sacred potential within every moment that summons us to sanctify life, to make the presence real by bringing or becoming that blessing.
So when we bring God's presence into the world, because God's presence is everywhere, that's how the blessing comes to be. Great, so we have a little backdrop. And now I have here for your viewing pleasure, I know Rabbi Jurgen's gonna love this text box right here, a variety of ways that Sidurim prayer books, or the editors thereof, have tried to translate this line for many years, right? So we have Mishkan HaNefesh, that's our Siddur, our prayer book that we use tonight. Praised are you, Adonai, our God, sovereign of the universe, right? We have Kol Neshama, blessed are you, source of lights, that's not really in the text, sovereign of all worlds, blessed are thou, Lord our God, King of the universe, that's the one many of us grew up saying. We praise you, O Lord our God, sovereign of the world, from England, O Holy One, a blessing, your presence fills creation. That's Rabbi Larry Kushner wrote, Sudbury, he's in San Francisco now, but for a long time he was in Sudbury, Massachusetts, and he and his congregation wrote their own Siddur. And then you are praised, Adonai, our God, majesty of the universe, from the Hillel Siddur from Rabbi Richard Levy, a blessed memory. Okay, before you turn the page, if you had to pick one that you like the best, the one that resonates for you, you can look again. I'll give you 30 seconds to peruse. Tell me which one you like the best and why. Get up, Rabbi Jurgen, while you can. All right, which one do you like the best and why? Don't be shy, don't be shy.
I'll answer.
Okay, wait, I'm gonna let Lynn answer. Lynn finally had
good.
Lynn had the courage to raise her hand first, and then Rabbi Jurgen, I'd like to hear what you have to say too.
Okay.
I love Rabbi Kushner. O Holy One of blessing, which incorporates blessing, your presence fills creation. And to me, that says it all.
Yeah. So in many ways, he, because he's brilliant, of course, right, is able to encompass that grandeur and the intimacy and the idea, because I know he believes this, that God is not just everywhere, but everything, right? That God's presence fills in all the spaces. He says that in that one line. Yes, he's pretty awesome. I like that one too. Rabbi Jurgen, which one's your favorite?
It was that one.
It was that one? Oh, wah, wah. Okay.
But I like, if I could make my own, I would, a combination. I wish we used majesty instead of sovereign. So I like Mishkan HaNefesh, Mishkan Tefillah, but I wish that we used majesty instead of sovereign.
So I think like the sovereign thing is trying to be sort of gender neutral, stay away from patriarchy, but still have that grandeur. Sometimes when we, translations are limited and flawed no matter what, right? And I tend to agree. Anyone else? Favorite? Anyone love that we, blessed art thou, Lord our God, King of the universe, just for old time's sake, yeah? Just because it feels like a warm blanket. Wait, hold on.
I like that one because I feel like it's a traditional approach and language is often lost throughout time. And so we need to kind of keep our foundations in our religion through our ancestors and use a generational approach. And what better way to do that than through language?
Okay, cool. So, of course, what you're referring to is like the 1920s, right? That perspective, right? Because the Hebrew really is the ancestral approach. But yeah, that more formal English that tried, sort of in a total contradistinction to the Rabbi Kushner translation, right? The language from back in the day, even from like the Union Prayer Book, right, was meant to bring on that sense of majesty and transcendence, like the sanctuary, right, from extremely formal language, and it made us feel like it was very important, right? And for Rabbi Kushner, I would imagine he would say, the grandeur is important, but so is the ability to access, right? To not feel like God is far away, but that God is very near. And it's just different moments in time and different senses of what God means to us that will make us resonate with different English. That's why there's so many translations, right? But I totally appreciate your point, because I understand that's why I always, for Psalm 23, the Shepherd's Psalm, I have to use, the Lord is my shepherd, I shall not want, even though the modern English would probably be more on point, but it doesn't do it for me, right? And the same, just like what you're saying. Yeah. No, I didn't mean to, like you. I didn't mean to volunteer you to speak. You don't have to talk if you don't want. Okay, go back there. Okay, great.
My favorite one is, blessed are you, source of light, sovereign of all worlds, because it's the notion of the definition of light. And it's so many definitions: enlightenment, brightness, the opposite of darkness.
Nice.
And I just love all the connotations of the word light.
And I want to add on to that. So by saying sovereign of all worlds, it's supposed to knock us out of our self-centeredness, right? When we say the universe, sure, we mean all the planets and whatever, we mean that technically, but we're all the center of our own universe anyway, right? So we kind of think the earth, right? Because that's where we humans live. But when you say sovereign of all worlds, you have to stop and think, well, there are other worlds. Maybe not Earth, right? But what kind of living beings are there? What beings were here before us? What beings will be here after us? What universes exist we don't even know about, right? So I like it too, because it kind of expands our mind, right? So the Hebrew leaves open in many ways all these translations, and we can understand that each translator, in creating their own version for that particular Siddur, that particular prayer book, has a theology in mind. That is, of course, they're all united by a general theology, but there are nuances, and that's, and that's why, if you're like me, I bet Rabbi Stahl, I know Rabbi Jurgen, have many, many different Siddurim from many different places all over the country and even the world, because we love to kind of grasp and get the nuances of what other people are thinking theologically when we're saying Baruch Atah Adonai Eloheinu melech haolam. All right, so now we're going to turn to the other side. We're going to think a little bit about what the word barakah, or blessing, technically means. Okay. Who's reading for me? Great.
The Hebrew root form which barakah is derived means simply to bow. Taken from the word barak, knee, the barakah is nothing if not an act of bowing or of submission. The very notion that mortal man can bless God cannot be seriously entertained. So although we can praise God, we can hardly employ the English verb to bless. If anything, it is we who become blessed when we indulge in reciting a barakah. We offer the blessing Baruch Atah as if to say, you are already blessed.
Right? Okay, so now we understand why some of those translators decide to use praised, right? Or we praise you. Oh, Holy One of blessing, right? Ascribing blessing to God, because, as Rabbi Jeffrey Cohen says, who are we to bless God? We can only praise God. That is extremely presumptuous, right? And that the word Baruch actually comes from the word ni, which means when we're praising God, we're actually showing our submission, right? We're recognizing that God is holier, bigger, more powerful than we are, technically speaking. Okay, and so Rabbi Elliot Dorff helps us understand what we're supposed to be thinking about when we get to that place. I love that Rabbi Jurgen is volunteering people now. It's awesome. Awesome. Okay, thank you.
The root Baruch compels us to acknowledge God asking us to transcend our self-centered view of the world and of our self-congratulatory stance within it. By opening with the Baruch Hu and continuing with the Sidur's many blessings, the liturgy reinforces the importance of adopting that appropriately humble attitude that prompts us to confront the frightening fact that we are not in full control of our lives. A beracha evokes a certain awe, therefore, and even fear.
Okay, so there's something about worshiping in a Jewish context, about saying a beracha, about saying a blessing, which is supposed to humble us, to give us a sense of God's greatness, and not to put ourselves down, but to put ourselves in the context of that universe, of those many worlds, right? And I think so often when we're saying our prayers, we want to make sure we say them correctly, of course, but we get involved in saying the words, and maybe, without understanding what our kavanah, our intention, our purpose is supposed to be as we are praising, thanking, acknowledging God for the world that we live in, okay? So, how do we be a blessing? Rabbi Samson Raphael Hirsch.
Right. Our prescribed blessings do not enunciate facts, truth, what it assumes we are already fully conscious of, or wish are yet fully realized, but such that they wish to awaken, reanimate, and keep us ever fresh, in us.
Thank you. So in the Mishnah, we are taught, I can't get the exact translation, I'm sorry, but we're taught that it is not proper to ask God for something to occur, especially if it may have already happened. So, for instance, the example, I don't know if you learned this one too, Rabbi Jurgen, if you're, probably weren't driving in a car, but you're in your cart and you're going into town and you see that there is a building on fire, it is not proper to say, "Blessed are you, Adonai our God, I hope that that is not my house," right? That is an improper blessing because it is either your house or it is not your house, right? And I remember learning that, being like, oh, wow, okay, I got it. Like, no magic, right? No magic. But blessed is God who is in control of everything, right? Maybe that I will have the strength to endure, that I will have wisdom to, to comfort the bereaved, or things that you can do, things that raise your awareness of your place in the world are what blessings are about, not asking for specific things. Even the petitionary prayers that are in the Amidah ask for things like justice and peace, not, as I love to say to, 5th, 6th graders, not a new bicycle or a new Xbox, right? We're not asking for things. We're asking for awareness, greater peace, wholeness, a sense of where we are in the world. Okay. And so, of course, we're going to connect it back to Avram because it's Parshat Lech Lecha.
Avram's call, both the one he hears and the one he leaves to us, contains a promise. It is God's promise to fill and empower us with energy and vision, but more, it is also our promise to one another that our journeys will be connected to the well-being of the entire earth. Hearing the call, we trace our roots back to Abram, a glimpse of Eden restored, a new world in which the human community is viewed as a great kinship awaiting our response.
Thank you. And so every single time we say a blessing, a Baruch Atah Adonai, every time we light our candles, every time we say Mariv Aravim, our job, and all the other prayers that we say, our job is, of course, to do the act we're doing to thank God for and fulfill our mitzvah, but it's also supposed to be a reminder of the greatness of the universe, of God's presence within, and I also love the Sudbury, that God's presence fills creation, and that by offering blessings, we are given the gift of greater awareness and hopefully a better sense of what we need to do to add blessing and bring that blessing like Avram was called to do in the lives that we get to live as well. I don't know if we have any more Baruch Atah Adonai tonight, but come back tomorrow, or definitely next Shabbat, so that when we say those blessings again, you'll have a raised awareness of what that's all about. Shabbat Shalom.
Shabbat Shalom. We continue with Aleinu, page 283, and I invite you to rise.
עלינו לשבח לאדון הכל, לתת גדולה ליוצר בראשית, שהוא שם חלקנו ויחד את שמו, וגורלנו להמליך מלכותו. ואנחנו קוראים ומשתחווים ומודים לפני מלך מלכי המלכים הקדוש ברוך הוא. ונאמר והיה אדוני למלך על כל הארץ ביום ההוא יהיה אדוני אחד, ושמו אחד.
You may be seated. Page 290 for our memorial meditation, Rabbi Chaim Stern's poem. It is a fearful thing to love what death can touch, a fearful thing to love, hope, dream, to be and oh to love, and to lose. A thing for fools this, and a holy thing to love. For your life has lived in me, your laugh once lifted me, your word was gift to me. To remember this brings a painful joy. 'Tis a human thing, love, a holy thing, to love what death has touched. Our thoughts turn now to those in our community and extended community who have died at this time in years past. As we mark their yard sites, we remember them. Arthur Aftergut, Audrey Allen, Donald A. Benjamin, Rose Marion Berg, Martha Burgle, Sidney Berman, Judith Bernstein, Sienna Vera Bishop, Sidney Bretler, Joseph Bryant, Anna Charnaninsky, Lois Cochran, Morris K. Dorn, Jane Callison-Dreyfus, Dr. Harry Elmetz, Sam Fattel, Adolph Fraley, Dr. Albert Franco, Dr. Samuel J. Friedberg, Leonora Garfinkel, Martin I. Glass, James Glennon, Herman Glosserman, Harry Pete Glavinsky, Dr. Harry Goldberg, Bessie Golden, Marion Goldsmith, Sylvia Greenberg, Nathan Hafkin, Emery Eisenberg, Sue Karotkin, Elaine Dixie Kaufman, Harriet Kay, Daniel Kareth, Diana Kaiser, Eva Kingston, Rollins Miller Koppel, Marcy Kurtz, Anne Levine, Leah Lefton, Isabella Levison, Frank Hart Lichtenstein, Paul Mann, Joseph Matisoff, John Milton Jr., Joe Neerman, Winifred Ozer, Sarah Ratner, Maria Jose de Silva Rennebeck, Emma Rice, Herbert Rifkin, Selma Robinson, Stephen Berger Roos, Dr. Walter Rawson, Arthur Rotblatt, Robert Rubenstein, Benjamin Sachs, Robert Sapiro, Molly Schuster, Esther Safarti, Julius Seligman, Charlotte Simon, Esther Simon, David Stensler, Egon Stern, Mathilde Stern, Jack Swidler, Miriam Gibber Tobman, Esther Weinstein, Sam Weinstein, Milt Weiss, Ethan Zimmerman, Louis Zimmerman, and Joseph Samuel Zussman. We also think of those who've died in the past month, whose families are in a mourning period of Shloshim. We remember Ruth Friedberg, Melvin O. Levine, Marilyn Golden, Doris Freed, Dr. Neil Ross Gerwitz, and Marilyn Glick Glosserman. We also think of 3 who have died this past week, whose families are in a mourning period of Shiva. Remember Steve Sterling, brother of Harris and Frances Sterling, Francis Frankie Wolf, cousin of Pam and Mark Ayers, and Rabbi Barton Lee, husband of Marcy Lee, father of Noam and Stephanie Lee, and Nira Lee and David Eisenbeis, brother of Carl and Barbara Lee, and cousin of Lee and Betsy Rosenberg, Barbara Wolf, Michael and Shirley Swanson, Steve and Eileen Lee, and Karen Lee. To all of these names, we add those which are in our hearts each and every day as we rise together as one community for Kaddish Yatom on page 294. Yitz Gadal v'yitz Kadash Shemei Rabbah, Be'alma divrach birutei v'yamlich malchutei, B'chayechon u'v'yomechon u'chayei d'chol Beit Yisrael, Ba'agala u'v'zman kariv v'imru, Amen. Yehei Shmei Rabbah mevarach le'olam ulmei almaya, Yitzbarach v'yishtabach v'yitpa'ar v'yitromam v'yitnaseh, v'yithadar v'yithaleh v'yithalal Shemei d'kudesha b'richu, Le'ela min kol berchata v'shirata, tushbechata v'nechamata, da'amiran ve'alma v'imru, Amen. Yehe shlama rabba min shemaya, v'chayim aleinu v'al kol Yisrael v'imru, Amen. Oseh shalom b'imromav, hu ya'aseh shalom, aleinu v'al kol Yisrael v'imru, Amen. May the one who creates harmony on high bring peace to us and to all Israel, to which we say, Amen. You may be seated. It is my honor to call forward Dr. Amy Benedict, President of our Board of Trustees, to deliver tonight's announcements.
Welcome everyone here in the sanctuary and online. I want to first of all thank Beth Keogh for blessing our candles this evening. And then I want to thank Michael Seidel for sharing with us all his musical talents. Many things are happening at Temple. On October 19th, we have Rabbi Nathan, well, she did lead the first, no, let's see, October 19th is coming up. We're going to have another session. We had the first one, and even if you missed the first one on a history of women in the rabbinate, you can catch up on the future ones by signing up. So even if you missed, like I said, the first one, you're going to hear about some of the teachings are going to focus on how women's leadership has changed the rabbinate and the Jewish community as a whole. On October 24th at 9 a.m., Rachel Stern is going to have her first online class as part of our Sunday Scholars Series. And this class is made possible through the Gilbert and Ruth Lang Human Endowment Fund, so thank you. On October 31st, Temple Beth-El, in partnership with the Jewish Community Center and Texas Senior Games, they're looking for volunteers to help run track and field events. So if you want to sign up for that, everything, of course, is on our weekly email, which comes out on Thursdays. November 8th through 11th, you can join RAC's Freedom to Vote campaign, and we're trying to mobilize Reform Jews to vote from across the country. And again, all these registrations can happen on the Thursday emails. May we all be a blessing and be humble. Shabbat Shalom. Have a wonderful week.
Our closing song is Oseh Shalom. As you rise, I want to note that some of the melodies that were a little different, that we weren't as familiar with the Shabbat, were composed by Michael. And so it's been fun to hear some of his music. And I appreciate that you bring back the chorus so that we can start to pick them up. And Michael's going to be joining us a lot while Cantor Berlin is on her sabbatical. And so I know we'll be able to get to learn and participate with many of your wonderful, soulful melodies. So wonderful. Please rise.
Oseh Shalom bimromav, Hu yaseh Shalom aleinu, ve'al kol Yisrael, ve'al kol yoshvei Tel ve'imru, Amen. Oseh
Shabbat Shalom.